who of you saw this come up? The Christ is King thing.
Oh yeah, James Lindsay's having a bit of a melty.
I covered it last time. He's just wrong. It's not the same at all.
No, it's not.
To be fair, I'm going to be the radical centrist and say that everyone this discussion is being very dumb in certain ways.
Yes, it is.
But that's why I can see the whole like Christ is King, like neo-Reaganism thing coming. I'm just like, oh, it's going to hit them like a freight train because they're going to have all that shit nicked off them again by the GOP people.
Yeah, exactly.
The base with it, but it's just a melty. He is having a melty. As I think I said to you, Aydin, the whole thing is that James Lindsay has been like Agent Smithed, right?
Yeah.
At some point, like the programming took back over. He went, yeah, and he turned into some neoliberal, just like propaganda machine, and he's just sat there spouting like CNN lines about what he's effectively.
He has some serious. I've talked to him personally about this, right? On and off. I've known James Lindsay for a long time.
I've never heard of him.
You've never heard of Dr. James Lindsay?
No.
You've never heard of Circle Squared? You've never heard of Circle Squared?
I have never tried to find out more about this sphere of people. I don't really care about the people involved, except the people I like. I just care about the ideas, really.
When I explain what it is, you will have heard of it. Remember a couple of years ago when a bunch of academics published like a chapter of Mein Kampf in some academic journal by changing the word Jews to white cis males? Yeah. That's James Lindsay. That was Circle Squared or the Sokol Affair. Well, the Sokol Squared Affair. So yeah, that was there. It was. Yes. Well, no, the original Sokol Affair was in the 90s, where it was a computer programmer who or some kind of software guy who used like early AI shit, really, really early AI shit to write absolute nonsense and got it accepted into academic journals. That was in the 90s.
Nobody reads them.
Nope, they don't. But this was...
Yes, I don't think it's analogous to that. But what he was saying is that it's a rhetorical trap like Black Lives Matter. But I explained last time why I don't think it is. And it essentially comes down to a lot of connotations and associations, plus that Black Lives Matter is actually a lesser claim. That the problem with Black Lives Matter is that in order to oppose it, you would have to propose an alternative. Whereas with Christ is King, it is already a supremacist statement explicitly. So in order to oppose it, you simply disagree with it. So it's a lot more honest about what it believes, whereas Black Lives Matter is only implicitly supremacist. And only that way because we know the people involved, and it's not just a phrase, it's an organization. It's a money laundering activist riot organization. So there's a lot more to it. But Christ is King is just a religion. It's not quite the same thing.
Yes.
So they're not analogous.
Black Lives Matter.
Whatever you think of them, and whether you're Christian or not, which obviously I'm not, regardless, they're not analogous. And for Christians, Christ is King is the default assumption. I would expect that by definition, all Christians would accept Christ is King. By definition, that's the point. So I don't know what he was even thinking of here. Why he said this. Again, the Agent Smith theory seems to be the best I've heard.
Yeah, yes.
True. No, it's exactly like you said, though, is that, with Christ is King, you know what you're getting. It's on the tin, right? With the Black Lives Matter stuff, is that there's all these other assumptions and implications that come along with that are below the surface level of saying, oh, Black Lives Matter, too. If that was really what that meant, then they wouldn't have had an issue with All Lives Matter, which, of course, they found repugnant.
Or White Lives Matter.
Right, sure. But those were heretical. So no, Black Lives Matter is a totally different, yes, it is theological in its own way, absolutely. But Christ is King is telling you up front what it is.
And hey, you said heretical. Literally, to disagree with Christ is King is heretical according to the Christians. But one, they don't have the power to enforce that these days. Black lives don't matter. More importantly, they're not trying to trick you into, like, you can disagree without having to propose something else. If you say Christ is King and I say I don't think so, I don't have to say no. Actually, Allah is King. I don't have to do that. But with Black Lives Matter, if I want to disagree with that, you disagree that Black lives don't matter, or you say you propose an alternative, White Lives Matter. Oh, suddenly either way, you're. That's why it's a trap. In order to disagree, you have to either propose something or say something no one would actually believe. Unless, of course, I guess some people you do believe Black lives don't matter.
Or is that mashallah? No, I don't like that this is just a kind of a bit of a gay debate about what is very tepid online Christian sloganeering. That's all it is. it's very tepid online Christian signaling to each other.
I wouldn't even call it
understand
tepid.
why this is.
It's simple. Like there's a lot less to it than Black Lives Matter. It's simple. I wouldn't even call it tepid because it's quite a strong proposition. But it's so simple and obvious. If you're a Christian, you do believe that.
It's just a display of your in-group affiliation. That hey, hello, I'm a Christian. Christ is king. That's all that means.
And if you're gonna if you're gonna say that they're similar, you have to say any propositional statement is the same in that case. Like Lindsay, often when you find someone has made some weird logical connection, either what they've done is they've made everything fit their definition or nothing fit their definition, whatever is more convenient for them. So you've got to figure out, okay, but does this apply to anything else then, James? But if I state my favorite programming language, well, you disagree with that, well then you're against me, or you're against the idea, or you have to say it's bad. That's the same thing with Black Lives Matter and with Christ is King. The difference with Black Lives Matter is there's a lot more to that phrase in practice.
I do think it's very, again, like James Lindsay being very friend enemy. He doesn't, Black Lives Matter, Christ is King, it's horseshoe, it's the same thing from a different angle. I don't like it. But you're right, everybody undertakes in-group, out-group signifiers. Everybody undertakes kind of sloganeering. Everybody undertakes the kind of soundbite culture stuff. And he'd either have to not do it at all himself, which he does, everybody does, or he'd have to kind of sit there and call it all out, even in his own stuff, and that get tiresome. Or he could just sit there and shut up and not make an idiot out of himself. But apparently that's not an option.
I think what it is, too, is that Lindsay is first and foremost a mathematician. So he's looking for some kind of universal or unifying theory for this. He's trying to look at politics like math. And that's why I think he thinks, or why he comes to that kind of conclusion that there must be an equal and opposite reaction. It must that the horseshoe theory must have some relevance. Because he's looking at actually like a bell curve. Is that they must be equal in some way.
Well, if that's what he's doing, I fear for anyone that has to treat his mathematical work as if it must be true. Because what he's done there is he's applied a principle to something that it does not apply to, or he's failed to take into account factors and added factors that shouldn't be there. It's what all mistakes of logic are, either a failure to take into account factors or adding factors that shouldn't be there.
He's being a Redditor is what he's doing. That's the problem.
Well, that's a different way of putting it, but I do wonder
Redditor.
how often he's made similar mistakes in his academic work.